Hello everyone and welcome to Physical Science. Today we are going to be talking about ions, Unit 2, Section 4. So ions are going to be anything that becomes positive or negative. And then we'll see how opposites attract, even in the elements. Alright, so an ion. There are two types. You can have a cation, which loses electrons. Well, electrons are negative. So if you lose negative, you have less negative, guess what? You become a positive charge, like the example of magnesium plus 2, because it has lost 2 negatives, so it becomes a plus 2. An anion is something that has gained electrons and gained negatives. Well, if you gain negatives, you become more negative, so it becomes a negative charge. So in nitrogen, -3, it has gained 3 electrons. It gained 3 negative. I remember this by cations are positive because it's a kitty cat because it has paws. And anions are negative, like Antichrist. Well, you may be wondering why it becomes positive or negative. Well, all elements, every last one of them, want to become like noble gases. These are your nobility. What makes them noble? They have full valence shells. So all of these, their outermost shell is full. They're so full that they don't even interact with anybody else. They don't need anybody else's valence electrons, and they're stuck up. They don't react. They're just like all off on their own. Well, so why would an element gain or lose electrons? So why would an element gain or lose electrons? To become noble-like. Because we all want to be like nobility. So that means equals a full valence or outermost shell. And remember, there are rules for what each shell has in terms of how many it can fit and whether it's full. In general, metals will lose electrons becoming cations. They will become positive. And here's why. I'm going to look at lithium, for example. Lithium is atomic number 3. That means it has 3 valence electrons, or 3 electrons. So when you are adding them to your shells, 2 will go in the first, and that shell is full, and 1 will go in the second. Well, do you think it's easier to lose 1 electron or gain 7? Well, it's easier to lose 1, so it will lose 1. And what will happen is when you take that electron away, there's no reason for that shell to even be there. So you'll end up with the nucleus surrounded by 2 valence electrons. Well, that first shell only holds 2, so guess what? That is a full valence shell. It's like nobility. That's what it wants to do. But when it loses 1, it becomes a +1 charge because it lost a negative. Nonmetals, however, gain electrons and become anions. Nonmetals are going to be on the right-hand side of your periodic table, like fluorine, which is atomic number of 9. So fluorine, around its nucleus with its protons and its neutrons, are going to have its electrons. The first shell will have 2, 1, 2. And then your second shell will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to make a total of 9. Well, guess what? 7 doesn't make it full. It wants to have 8 in that shell to make it full. So do you think it's easier to lose 7 or gain 1? Well, it's easier to gain 1. So it will take 1 from someone else, becoming a element that looks a lot like a noble gas because it will have a full valence shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Well, guess what? If it gained an electron, which is negative, well, now it's a -1. So metals are on the left-hand side, they will become positive. Nonmetals are on the right-hand side, and they will become negative. So when you are looking on the periodic table, there are some general trends that you can see. You will see that ions or anything element that is in the first column has 1 valence electron. Guess what? It's going to lose that 1 because it's easier to lose that 1. So it will become a +1 charge. Everything in the second column has 2 valence electrons, 2 electrons in its outermost shell. Well, is it easier to gain 6 or lose 2? Well, it'll lose 2 electrons, becoming a plus 2. Then, if we skip all the way over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This has 5 valence electrons. Do you think it's easier to lose 5 or gain 3? It will gain 3, becoming a minus 3 charge because it gains 3 negatives. And then over here you have 6, so how many does it want to fill to get to the nobility? It will need 2 more, 2 electrons, making it a minus 2. And then this last column will make it minus 1 because it has 7. So if you will please, on your reference table, go ahead and label the charges above your columns so that you can see what charges they will become. Later on we'll be talking about how opposites attract and how these will bond together. But for now, know that this becomes a plus 1 charge by losing an electron. Everything here becomes a plus 2 charge. Everything here becomes a minus 3. Everything here a minus 2 and a minus 1 because they all want to get to a stable octet. Alrighty, have a wonderful day.